Oh man, that's a powerful fish. Oh, and he is a darn good fish. All right, guys, be very quiet. We are just in the middle of the city. We're gonna be throwing some light tackle with some bigger baits, hopefully for some enormous fish. So let's get down there. Okay, I think something has it. Our float, oh yeah, there it goes. Yep, there it goes. Obviously, I think this is probably gonna be a catfish, probably a blue catfish. All right, he's on. It's a small fish. Well, I thought it was a small fish. Let's see here. It's a nice one. That's a nice fish. He's not huge, but he's respectable to have on this bait caster so quickly. Now, I did not bring my grippers. I actually put them in another bag for another trip, so we're gonna use gloves. Oh yeah, look at that. See, even though come on, buddy. Even though I waited to set the hook on this fish, that's a respectable blue. Let's get this hook out of his mouth. There we go. Beautiful fish. Very, very talkative. Let's get him. I can feel him flexing. He's about to try to have a go. So let's get him near the water. That way, if he flips out of my hands, he's not going to hit the concrete. That fish came really fast. That's always a great sign. It just means that the bite's going to be really good. Just so you guys can have a closer look, this is what we're fishing with. You guys can see the circle hook, and then look right here, that is not wire. We're using 300-pound braided line today. Really tough stuff. It will work against big alligator gar, although I do prefer to use wire for gar. It is perfect for catfish, however, so let's get it bait back out. There we go. Not in, but next to a snag. I can just barely see the top of it. I've seen this thing when it is about, 4 feet deep. It's about 8 or 9 feet deep right now in the center. So I know what it looks like out here underneath the water. Something's messing with it. Feels like it could be a small fish, but yeah, something got it now. There we go, now he's going under. If it's a catfish, he's going for that snag, so I can't give him very much time. All right, we're on. He actually feels pretty good. Yes, this is actually a good fish. Okay, cool. We got a big fish on, guys. Yes. Oh man. Big enough I need to loosen the drag a bit, actually. It's this snag right here, I'm telling you guys. Oh my God, yeah, he's a good catfish. Okay, I think he took us into a snag or something. I cannot tell what's happening. He is definitely still on. We might be snagged. So here's what we're gonna do, especially with these big fish. I like to give them a second. And usually what they will do, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Okay, I was gonna say, usually if you give them a minute, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and they'll run out of whatever snag they're in, and he did. Okay, I think we got him out. Yep. The snag is coming with us. We broke the snag off the main pile of whatever it was in, and there's a catfish buried in the middle of it. But I'm okay with this. It means we're getting everything back, including our catch, and he is a darn good fish. Looks like I'm catching a blue, half a tree, a burlap sack, a plastic bag, somebody's socks. Yeah, a nice little collection of knickknacks, but a darn good catfish. No wonder that wouldn't come undone. as good as caught. There we go. All right, let's get him up and show him to the camera. He is a big fish. Hooks out. That is a healthy catfish. Obviously, there you go. As they do, flexing away from the camera, even though I wanted to flex towards the camera so you can see his full size. When they flex, so, ooh, ow! That's why I wear the glove. A really incredible animal. Beautiful catfish. Let's get him back. Let go of my thumb. Ow, ow. See, that's why I wear the glove. Oh, wow. Incredible. Just a few minutes in and already some amazing fish. Let's check our line because he took us to that snag. It was a nasty snag. 50-pound fluorocarbon. Seems to be totally fine. Go down our 300-pound braid, look for nicks. You know, a tree branch probably ain't gonna nick it, but like the glass or the rebar and all that stuff in there, put a nice cut in it. I think we're good. Let's check the sharpness of the hook. Good. I remember I did that in one video and some guy got on the comment section and was like, what the F are you doing that for? You want it to taste better for the fish? Question mark, question mark, question mark, exclamation point. And it's like, yes, that is literally the entire point. Have you ever been fishing before? I want this to taste better for the fish. Ah, there they are. I was gonna say, I dropped my sunglasses. I was like reaching for them on my shirt, or I was about to reach for them on my shirt and I realized they were gone. Okay guys, we have a massive run. That fish is clearing this bayou with that bait. Yep, fish on. That's a good fish. That's, oh man, that's a powerful fish. Oh, look at him go. Oh. He's actually coming our way. There he is. Look at that. That's a good fish. Man, so strong. Powerful fish. Well, he's not a gar. That's fine. I would have been really surprised if it was, to be honest, because just it's very, ooh, he's not done yet. You can't quite muscle him in the way I'm used to with my big alligator gar rods and reels. Slightly different game now. It's a more even fight. It's just a really good blue catfish. Yeah, oh man. Yeah, he's a good fish. Yeah. About on par with I think he's in between the first and second fish of the day in terms of size, but that's a healthy fish, man. Oh, look at him rolling. Lovely fit. It's a lovely fish. Ah, it's a real nice animal. Healthy blue, respectable catfish. Not a monster, this one, but nice. Oof, really nice to have. He's got a lot of fight left in him. Beautiful fish. Let's go ahead and get him back in the water. Look at that instant spin away. He gets his bearings and he's off. Nice fish to have. Pretty good day. I wish it was warmer. I do. I wish the water temperature was warmer, because the water temperature has gone down with the air temperature. And even though the air temperature kind of went back up today, the water temperature is still very, very cold. So let me show you guys something. One of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that I like to widen out my circle hooks, you'll notice that is much wider than its original packaging, is because not only do I find it sets better on alligator gar, which I'm going to talk about in a video I'm creating, how to on alligator gar. Not only does it set better for gar, which I catch a lot with circle hooks, but I find it's easier to roll it out of the fish when they take it a little bit deeper. When the circle hook is really, really tight, that gap, when it has a very small gap, or that point comes back into the shank real tight, the hookup ratio for animals like catfish is very, very high. But when they take it deep, trying to unhook that is a nightmare. Having a bit of a wider circle hook, I think, makes it a bit easier for me. It's quite, see all these pigeons down here. I'm sure they're a little annoyed that their bridge is gone, but looks like they might be building a new one. Look at this. It's so cool. Real quick, guys, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. Do that now. But also, if you haven't already, you need to get in on the giveaway that I'm doing. Shimano SLX extra high gear bait caster, brand new. Go to the community section of my YouTube channel. You'll see the poll. You have to, it's a contest. You have to win that reel. Israel Adesanya, the champion, middleweight champion of the UFC. Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whitaker 2 going down this Saturday in Houston. And you'll see the rules in that post, but basically whoever can predict the winner and predict the win the most accurately is going to win that reel. So open up that post, have a look at the rules, and put your prediction down. And if you get it the best, or you get it the closest, that reel is yours. Okay, so I decided that because I couldn't catch any more fish on that particular trip, daylight got the best of us, I thought I would do a little bit of a Q&A, because I've been getting a bunch of questions recently that I haven't had enough time to answer. Or I've been getting the same question over and over and over and over, and I'll answer one person, then 5 more people will ask. Instead of trying to meticulously answer every single one, and then of course missing several, I thought I would just do a bit of a Q&A right here. So I've got questions on Instagram, and I've got questions on YouTube. Some of them are standard run-of-the-mill questions, some of them are kind of fun, some of them are kind of odd, and then some of them are exactly what I expected. So I'm just going to start going in no particular order. None of these are mean. None of these are like attack questions, so I'm going to read the name. I'm not going to like shame anyone. These questions are all very reasonable. So Brandon Sasurus on Instagram says, do you plan on doing any saltwater fishing? I'd like to see some more of your saltwater fishing videos of you chasing some big bull reds or something. The answer to that is absolutely yes. I do want to do more saltwater fishing. The problem is, when I made the decision to go full-time on YouTube, it turned into a numbers game. I still love what I do. I absolutely love every single second of what I'm doing. However, you have to pay your bills, right? And when your YouTube becomes your work, you are calculating costs, you're calculating losses, and the risk-reward factor becomes one of the biggest aspects of what you're doing. Basically, it's a big risk. It can have a big reward. One of the first videos that cracked 1 million for me was a saltwater fishing video. However, that is, I find not the norm. A lot of my videos that I've done recently in saltwater have not done very well. So it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of driving for a video that turns out not to do very well. So I do plan on doing some more, hopefully sooner than later. The jacks should be running back around, April, late March, April-ish should pick up. I'll probably do some more saltwater videos then. But until then, freshwater is probably what it's gonna be. Hey, stop barking. My dog's barking. Hey, I know, come here. Just hates the other dogs. Come here. Look. Look. Ugh. It's you. Hi. Say hello to everybody. All right. You're gonna be okay. She hates the other dogs. I know. Okay, she's just gonna sit in my lap while I do this. McVampires. What's the one fish you would really like to catch but haven't caught yet? Thousands of them. Thousands of them. So obviously the dream fish would probably be an arapaima. I think that's the one that I would absolutely love to catch the most out of any species in the world. Chow Phraya cat. Is it the Chow Phraya catfish? I'm thinking the Mekong catfish. The Chow Phraya catfish is a similar but different fish. Mekong catfish, which you can really only catch in like recreational, like day ticket ponds over in like Southeast Asia, like Gillham's or Jurassic Mountain, things like that. And then, of course, the arapaima down in South America, or in those same resorts over in Southeast Asia. You can get them there, too. Those would be the two I'd want to catch probably the most. As far as fish that are realistic to catch here, that I could probably realistically catch, you know, at any given time on the show, I would love to catch a mirror carp. I've caught loads of common, loads of grass carps. Never caught a mirror. I'd like to catch a really nice mirror. Chips in a tube says, do you plan on doing something else besides fishing? I like both your fishing and cooking channels, but I'm curious if there will be something else. I don't exactly understand that question. Does that mean like anything else on YouTube? Possibly. The fishing stuff is really time consuming, especially right now, because as the temperature drops in Texas, it becomes very hard to catch anything of quality. So getting a video done that I know people are going to watch and it's going to do well on the channel, it can take a week's worth of fishing for a single video. So I've been super busy with that. That's one of the reasons that the cooking channel's kind of dropped off recently, is that I've just been so busy trying to catch quality fish on the regular. It's very hard. In the future, one of the things I've wanted to kind of do is something with mixed martial arts. I have a pretty good eye for like analysis of mixed martial arts. I understand the concept of the principles of what is happening in a fight as it happens, the principles at play, the strategies at play. I have a pretty good eye for picking up on what fighters are trying to do to each other, what's working, what's not. And I've thought about doing something oriented around that, but that is still off in the future. Right here, right now, the fishing channel is where it's at. And I say fishing channel. Wildlife has never been just a fishing channel. It just kind of became that. It is a conservation education show that focuses primarily on fish, because I find fish to be fascinating in the sense that the average person will never see something like a 6-foot, 100-pound alligator gar unless you catch it for them to see. And then you put it back. That's the whole point. I wanted to talk about conservation of a particular group of animals that most people can never look at without the use of fishing. That's why it's a fishing show. If rivers were clear and I could scuba dive, this would not be a fishing show. I would scuba dive and I would show you the fish under the water. I would really do it that way. It's because that just can't happen that I use fishing. Fishing is a means to an ends for me. I do enjoy fishing quite a lot, obviously. I love catching and releasing, good fish. But fishing is not actually the point of the show. If there's anything we're going to start doing that we haven't done in a while, it's really leaning into the conservation angle. I've been trying to put that in the last couple of videos, especially with alligator gar, because they're such a misunderstood animal. There's so many misconceptions that people have. They don't even know why they believe what they believe about some of these animals. They've just been told something as a carryover of information from the past that is completely false, and people think they know about problems supposedly these animals are causing that are actually non-existent. So conservation information is going to start coming back real heavy in the show. Probably going to start doing a lot more stuff with reptiles in the show. Not completely switching gears away from fishing, but more stuff will accompany that. A lot of snake stuff I want to start doing. I love snakes. Cypress, Texas, what happened to your cooking channel? What happened to your cooking channel content? Love seeing the monsters, but the fishing on that channel was more relatable. No, I get that. Again, just being super busy. This is Pacheco56 asks, what is the worst thing that has happened during a fishing trip? That is easy. I saw someone drown. This is actually kind of covered in a video that Beach Bomber Fishing did, because he was with me when it happened. But there's a lot of misinformation kind of in the Houston fishing community about what happened, because his video really focused more on basic safety information for the average fisherman, not so much on here's what happened to us today, which is good. That's the appropriate way to do a video like that. You don't want to try to capitalize off of somebody else's tragedy. That's that would not have been an ethical decision. He made that video extremely well. But there is a lot of misinformation about what happened. So he and I were fishing at a waste treatment plant in one of Houston's bayous. There was a group of guys that were fishing maybe 150 yards away, 100 yards away, downstream. And the bayou here, this is Buffalo Bayou, is enormous. This is probably Buffalo Bayou at its widest point. 60 feet across, 70 feet across in spots, 40 feet deep. Huge, absolutely huge. It makes this big curve, and there's a bridge that goes over it. And these guys were fishing under the bridge, and he and I were catching, I think we were catching reds and white bass, and there were some catfish showing up. It was turning into a pretty good day of fishing, and I saw something in the water out of my peripheral vision, and I was like, oh, some kind of animal. That's just the way my mind works. I'm like, animal. And I turned the camera over to start filming what I thought was a bird, because I saw something sticking out of the water like this, and I thought it was an anhinga or maybe a blue heron that had somehow wound up in the water. And I was looking at it, and I was like, hey man, is that a person? And we both kind of walked as far as we could in that direction down the little beach. And there was a guy, like you could see his arms flailing around in the water. And the current in this section of the bayou, by the way, is ridiculous. Very powerful. This is not... Just seeing someone in the water indicates that there's trouble. Even if they look like they know what they're doing in the water, still dangerous to be there. In the moment I saw the guy dip under and come back up, just a fraction of a second, I said, hey, he's drowning. Because I worked for a swim school for a while, and that's, one of the things that you have to learn in addition to, the science and the curriculum of teaching people how to swim, which is something I had been doing before I left. I was more of the guest service side of that business because that's one of the things I have a background in. I wasn't a swim instructor, but that I had to learn about that part of the job. And one of the things you learn about is what drowning looks like. And basically drowning is, going under the water for just a fraction of a second and then, inhaling or taking in that first bit of water, and then it goes downhill from there. So the moment I saw that guy like dip a little bit, I was like, he's drowning. Called 911, and the guy didn't make it. So we saw him go under once or twice. I was trying to get 911, give him our location. Beach bomber starts going up to, wait for the ambulance, because you always want to, have a signal person basically to be like, this is where we are. This is what's going on over here. Otherwise, an ambulance can pass you by. And the guy just went down, didn't come back up. And we spent the rest of the night with the Coast Guard and the police and the fire department, kind of helping him pinpoint the location where he went down. Took him a couple of days to find the guy's body. As it turned out, it was a foolish dare, I believe. He was actually encouraged to try to swim across the bayou by the group of friends that he was with. And, you just can't underestimate the power of water. I've said many times, nature shows its beauty in a lot of places, but it shows its power in water. It's not a contest you're ever going to win, ever. And, we see the top of water, and you can see the current on top of the water, but you can't see currents underneath that might be vertical or diagonal or moving down. And he just got sucked down. The cold shock, in addition to the current overpowering him, plus trying to swim with your clothes on, will get you. This becomes waterlogged and just adds all this weight that just starts sucking you down. And yeah, he did not make it. They found his body a few days later. And that's not the first time I've seen someone die. I've done a bunch of different jobs in the past. I have a background in safety, so I've been exposed to some things like that before. So it's not like it did a number on me emotionally. It's not something I'm unaccustomed to seeing. Tragedies like that, but it is a very sombering memory that just kind of really hits home when you start thinking about taking risks in the act of fishing. You always want to go the extra mile to make sure you get the fish of your dreams, and then you think back and you're like, you know what? Maybe play it safe this time. So yeah, don't underestimate the power of water. You will lose 1,000 times out of 1,000. That was a really sad day. What's the strangest thing? This is Teresa probably. What's the strangest thing that you've seen while walking through some of your more deserted areas to get to your fishing destinations? That's a hard one. I thought about that. Strangest thing. There isn't a whole lot of things I would characterize as like super weird that I've seen. Just kind of like the nitty gritty of the city. Nitty gritty of the city. That kind of stuff. Nick Dad says, one of the things I like about your videos is the info you give about fish, habitat, etc. Is learning those details a hobby, or do you have a background in river ecology? I don't have a background in river ecology, although that'd be really cool. I do have a background in conservation education. So I was a teacher. I was a science teacher, and ended up getting my foot in the door at the Houston Zoo as a conservation educator, and spent about the next 7.5, 8 years there. Went through all kinds of like professional like certifications and trainings and things like that. Taught all kinds of programs over there for them. So I do have a professional conservation background. I've been lucky enough to meet some amazing experts in quite a few different fields of conservation. From people on the ground level, experts that are kind of under the radar experts, like your keepers of different types of animals, to your like conservation program coordinators, world-class educators, and then like some of the big names. I've met Jeff Corwin a few times. I was able to meet Dr. Jonah Razabazafy. I think that's how you say his name. Razabazafy. I can never say his last name. Basically, he's like the world's foremost authority on lemurs. What was that one dude's name? Gregory Rasmussen. That's who I'm trying to think of. I was gonna say, like, I know a bunch of people who are tight with him, so I was like, what is his name? So I just started going through like Facebook friends that are still at the zoo, and I was like, Gregory Rasmussen. So I've been very fortunate to meet quite a few experts in their fields that are recognized on a global level, as well as people who are experts in their fields that just aren't recognized on that level, but still have the know-how in everything from education to animal care to veterinary care to conservation program coordinating worldwide. So yeah, background as a teacher, professional background in conservation education with the Houston Zoo for quite a long time. Ryan Radden says, I've been thinking about going back to school for some kind of wildlife ecology degree ever since I've been fishing a lot the last couple of years. I found some cool programs at SFA and LSU in wildlife conservation, fisheries and aquaculture, etc. I'd like to stay closer to Houston though if possible, but I looked at all the schools around here and there's nothing really like that. Where did you go to school for it? Where did you go to school for it? We're learning how to read. Where did you go to school for it, and what was the major? I did find some environmental science degree plans, but I wasn't sure if that was the main focus on what I want to do. Anyway, sorry for the long message. Thanks. So like I said, my background is actually in education, and then I got a bunch of practical experience while I was at the Houston Zoo. I did what they tell you not to do. So basically, I did not go through like 4 years of schooling, 2 to 3 years of masters, and then try to get my foot in the door. I went straight from like experience in a specific arena that was useful in the conservation field, and I basically applied to the zoo and got turned out a bunch of times, and then finally got my foot in the door, and I perform well live, really well, especially in a professional environment. Basically, when it comes to teaching, when it's go time, it's go time. I can flip a switch and I can out-teach most people. So I was able to beat out a lot of very highly qualified competition in my interview, because I did like a group interview with like 3 or 4 people that had like master's degrees in like ecology, and like there was somebody there who had like a master's degree in like, like evolutionary biology and stuff like that. And I was just the better teacher. So I was able to get my foot in the door in this role in the education department. And it worked out for me really well. But that is absolutely not the recommended strategy if you want to get into that world. You want to do what my sister did. My sister did her 4-year degree in, what was it in? I want to say it was like fisheries, like she did like a fisheries management degree, and then is like closing out her master's, and she got her foot in the door through that with, actually she did a lot of volunteering as well with like the Marine Mammal Stranding Network, Marine Mammal Stranding Network. So she got to do like all kinds of great practical experience, and then she was able to get her foot in the door with Texas Parks and Wildlife, which is where she is now, kind of basically running the education program for the Sea Center. You know, a very coveted position, largely on the back of both education and volunteer experience. So if you are looking for a degree in some type of ecology or, you know, biology subject, but you're not sure what specific field you want to apply it to, what I would recommend, and this is the recommendation that you would get from, you know, experts in all kinds of fields. In fact, I got this advice back in the day from, I cannot remember if it was Peter Rieger, who's like the VP of conservation at the Houston Zoo. He might have said this to me. I think I got the same advice from a couple of different people. He said it. I've heard a couple of like really like highly regarded reptile experts. Stan Mays, I think, said it. Chris Bednarski said it. They were saying if you don't know exactly what you want to do, even if you do know exactly what you want to do, actually, don't get a specific degree, because that locks you in. If you got a very, very, very specific degree in terms of like wildlife conservation, right, or ecology, and then there was just absolutely no way to get your foot in the door in that field right off the bat, your degree now almost becomes kind of a hindrance when you start going to these other different fields. You might get beat out by somebody who has a more general degree, because what I'd recommend is there goes the air conditioning. That's gonna be fun on the audio. But what I'd recommend is don't try to get the most specific degree possible. Try to get a degree, if you can, I would recommend evolutionary biology, because that is the groundwork for pretty much every field of study in conservation. Evolutionary biology plays in everything. And that is one of the most useful degrees you can get with a career in conservation. Evolutionary biology can be applied to basically anything. So get something like that. Look for degrees, if that's not exactly the one you want, and look for similarities where it's like, okay, this degree can be applied to absolutely anything, and kind of forms like the baseline of information for all these different fields of study. That's my recommendation. And yes, unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, Houston has never had the best degree programs in that respect. Basically, my advice would be, you know, if you're looking at wildlife sciences and things like that, I don't want to sound like a member of the cult, but A&M is kind of hard to beat. They really are. They have some phenomenal biology-based programs over there. Tough ones too, but they are really, really good. And I'm not gonna lie, like 75% or more of everyone in the trade, in the conservation business. Are you from Texas? Did you say that in your thing? Am I just assuming that? Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you're asking me about Houston. Yeah, dude. A&M owns that industry in Texas. They really do. Like everybody in the industry, you know, like 75-80% of everyone you're gonna meet probably went through A&M. So look at A&M and look into getting a degree that forms the baseline of information for other fields, and you are as good as gold. Just a suggestion. All right, Victor of your heart. That's a good name. Hello, I wanted to ask, what's the tastiest fish you can catch in Texas waters? Also, if you'll be making more cooking videos. Yes, definitely gonna be making cooking videos soon. Tastiest fish in Texas waters, depends on who you ask, but the correct answer is flounder. Would you ever consider, this is Texas Carp Angler. Would you ever consider fishing for carp as catch and release, or care for carp? The vast majority of carp fishing I've done on the show is catch and release. The reason it doesn't look that way is because in the last maybe, I would say probably 6 months, I've been doing an enormous amount of gar fishing, and using carp is unfortunately sometimes necessary for catching alligator gar. You know, when I can, I use mullet. But sometimes they will turn their nose up at mullet and go for buffalo or carp instead, especially if you go for the alligator gar in some of the rivers around here. In the bayou, they're not that picky, I've noticed, but in the rivers, they can be. Also, there's certain spots I was fishing recently near the ship channel, and the crabs, there are so many crabs. I was casting out mullet, and then within like 10 minutes, I'd reel the bait back in, and it would be like a cartoon fish skeleton, you know, with my hook running through it. And then you throw out a big piece of carp or buffalo, and because it's such a tough bait, the crabs can't eat through it, and they'll pick at it, but they can't destroy the bait, and then a gar will find it. And that's how I went a whole day fishing with mullet, couldn't get through the crabs, used carp and buffalo the next day in the same exact spot, and the crabs couldn't get through the bait, and then the gar found it, and I was able to film a video that way. So a lot of carp fishing and buffalo fishing I've been doing lately has been in service of gar fishing, so I have been keeping them. But the vast majority of carp videos I've got on the channel are catch and release, and there's going to be more of that coming. In fact, actually, this is a whole like box of like supplies that I bought for carp fishing, because I'm going to start doing so much of that on the show again. That's kind of what started the show. That's kind of where I want the show to kind of get back to. So yes, absolutely, carp fishing is going to return. Probably try to do some carp fishing tomorrow, actually, and it will be catch and release. What led you to YouTube, posting videos, etc.? I hear YouTubers say this is harder than one may think. What would you say is the hardest part for you? It is absolutely harder than you think. It's not a question of going, well, let me answer the first part first. What led me to do it? I have always wanted to be on TV, talking about animals, basically. I was 6 years old when I saw my first video of Steve Irwin, and right there, I was like, I'm gonna do that. And with the rise of the internet, because you gotta remember, when I was 6 years old, the internet was barely a thing. I remember getting dial-up. I remember the dial-up tone. I remember the first time I ever saw a Wi-Fi hotspot. Now that's how old I am. You know, YouTube did not exist until 2005. And even then, it wasn't what it is today. And I was about 16 years old when YouTube was invented. So the thought of being able to do this on TV was a really big goal, or on camera, I should say. It was a really big goal because getting into TV was enormously difficult, still is. But with the rise of the internet and social media, pretty much anybody can make their own program. Will people watch it? That's the question, because one of the things that the internet has done is it has saturated basically every market you can think of. Whereas before, there were like 3 or 4 guys that would do this on TV. You had Steve Irwin, you have Jeff Corwin, you have Nigel Marvin, and you have like a couple other guys. You have David Attenborough doing like different types of documentaries where he doesn't, you know, the voiceover work. Actually, he did a bunch of like programs where he was on camera back in the day, but that's beside the point. You know, you had a couple of guys that would do this kind of thing, and then, you know, you had Jeremy Wade come along. He was kind of the first guy to do the conservation programming that was fishing oriented, and then YouTube came up, and then anybody could do this. So the market gets kind of saturated. I've always wanted to be on TV talking about animals, and the hardest part about it is the fact that a lot of people want to do that. So how do you make yourself stand out? Basically, the hardest thing for me is trying to keep your finger on the pulse of the YouTube algorithm, because nobody knows how the YouTube algorithm works. Like, maybe the people that wrote it, but apart from that, it's so unpredictable. It's so unpredictable. If you read interviews with people like Mr. Beast, who is like the most successful YouTuber in the world, he doesn't even know how it happened. He'll say like, yeah, no, I have no clue. You know, a video I did forever ago just exploded, and then I started doing more stuff like that. But he can't pinpoint the exact reason why it started. Veritasium has this amazing video he does on his rise to success, how he capitalized on it, and he has probably the best scientific look at how this works. In fact, watching his channel is the most influential thing that has happened to my channel in the last year, because I learned a lot about how to do this from a professional scientific standpoint. But even his rise to prominence started at random when he did a video about the Coriolis effect. Was it the Coriolis effect? Magnus effect. That's what it was. It wasn't the Coriolis effect. It was the Magnus effect. And you spin a ball backwards, and if it drops over a certain distance, and somebody sampled that video and put it on their own thing and got like gazillions of views. And then YouTube let him capitalize on their profits because it's his, you know, it's his video that they're sharing. And then that kind of brought a flood of people over to his channel. So even him, he's got like over 10 million subscribers. Even he doesn't know initially why the video caught on. He just capitalized on that success and has learned since then. So keeping my fingers on the pulse of the YouTube algorithm is absolutely the hardest part of this job. You know, there's no certainty, none. My YouTube channel could dive bomb in 5 minutes and nobody might watch it. The algorithm could be like, yeah, no, getting rid of this. And there'd be nothing I could, you know, do about it right away. So that's the hard part. This is Texas Jack. He asks, why throw back invasive species? Not a criticism, just curious, as I'm sure there is a well thought out reason. There is. Depends on the species. So the thing is, a lot of people seem to, how to put this politely, not talking about Texas Jack here, but people in general. They overemphasize the positive effect that they think they have on something, and they ignore the negative effect that they have on something. And that is very true with the way a lot of average people treat their impact on the environment. So what you get, let's take a look at some Texas invasive species, because there's a lot. You know, you've got everything from your terrestrial species like, you know, feral pigs. You've got, you know, your aquatic species like the tilapia and the grass carp. Some of these species are so well established that catch and kill methods are not effective. And when I say they're not effective, I mean the state has come out and said it does not work to try to kill them. We need to come up with a better idea. You've got basically the people, the professionals that are tasked with this, that actually study this for a living. It is their job to control this. And they're the ones who have biologists on staff saying, like, this strategy that people think is the way does not work. So we have to come up with a different plan. You are not going to kill feral pigs faster than you're going to reproduce by traditional methods of hunting. You are not going to catch and keep tilapia out of Texas waters. It is not going to happen. You are not going to catch and keep grass carp out of Texas waters. It is not going to happen. And the argument people always throw back, and they're like, well, if every single fisherman kept every single carp they caught, it's like, no, it would do nothing. It would do nothing. Let's say every single fisherman in Texas recruits another fisherman in Texas. So you get twice the number of fishermen that there are in Texas right now. And everybody keeps the grass carp they catch when they catch one. You will not get rid of them that way. You have to come up with a more creative solution. There's going to be some kid right now who's probably in school who's going to come up with this amazing innovation that nobody thought of, that is going to be the solution for one of these invasive problems. And it's going to be like, oh my God, that's so smart. How did you think of that? It's going to be that kind of thing that solves these problems. Catch and kill is not effective with certain animals. So here's my thinking. When I catch a tilapia, for example, I am fishing for a variety of species. If I catch an invasive species, that's an outcome I know is likely to happen. Let's say I'm trying to catch catfish, right? I throw out some bait for a catfish. And let's say it's like worms on a hook and a tilapia takes it. And I bring back this tilapia and now I have an invasive species in my possession. Because the tilapia is so incredibly well established and catch and kill methods do not affect the numbers in the way people think they do, killing that animal would be pointless. It will not make a difference. It's like trying to pick up a grain of sand on the beach and being like, one day I'm going to clean up this sand. It's like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, give up on it. And somebody actually tried to compare it. It's like, oh, if you're walking on the beach, you'd pick up a piece of plastic if you saw it. It's like, yeah, plastic doesn't reproduce. It does break down into microplastics, but it's not like a breeding animal that keeps going. It's not like the number is increasing independent of humans putting it there. So essentially, the way I look at it is, it would be unethical for me to knowingly catch an animal, to knowingly fish for an animal that I may catch and have in my possession, and then kill it, knowing that killing it actually serves no purpose. Because no matter what you think, it is a living animal. It has value. A lot of people have this really bizarre, like, animosity towards invasive animals. They get angry about it. They're like, these animals are worthless. I hate them. These stupid carp. And like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I get comments like this all the time. Like, people will like swear at carp for being the worst animal ever. And it's like, no, this animal has evolved to fill a very specific niche in its environment, and it's very important to its environment, and then some dumb human brought it where it wasn't supposed to be, and that environment couldn't adapt to it fast enough, and that's how you get an invasive species. It's not the animal's fault. They are just being an animal. They're just trying to be. It's the dumb person that messed things up, usually for their own gain. That is why that happens. Somebody's trying to make a buck. That's almost always, they're either trying to make a buck or it's a short-sighted answer to another problem we've created. Like, oh, we brought this invasive plant over to this pond because it looks nice, and now it's growing out and suffocating everything else. How about we bring an animal over that doesn't belong here, and maybe it'll eat all those plants? And it turns out the animal is like, no, I'd rather have the native plants, thank you. I think it's unethical to catch an animal and kill it knowing that you were going to catch it and knowing that killing it is not going to serve the purpose you think it's going to serve. That's why I release things like tilapia and grass carp. It's just killing it would serve no point except to please people that want to see an animal die, and that's not what this channel is about. Now, on the flip side, one time I did catch a red-bellied pacu, and I caught it out of the Brazos River. This is years ago, this is before the show, and I dispatched that animal. Because that animal, the difference is that animal is not established yet. In those circumstances, catch and kill can still make a difference. Catch and kill is only effective with invasive species at like the very, very start of their invasion, they were brought here, introduction, or if the animal is struggling for some reason based on environmental factors, which is the case with the pacu. If you catch a pacu, removing that one animal, that actually might make a difference because they are not so well established as some of these other species. Wade Edgel? I remember you saying you are from Angleton. I am also from Missouri County, Sweeney to be exact. I spent a lot of time in Sweeney growing up. Would you ever be willing to fish with subscribers? I know some really good spots in this area for gar and flathead. Depends largely on what is happening with this pandemic. I was doing fishing trips with people on Patreon, and then not because of this, but outside of this, I ended up getting COVID, and it was extremely difficult to deal with. And then circumstances around that actually, somebody in my family had a really serious medical issue that was like, could have been a life and death issue. It was a life and death issue. And the fact that so many of us had COVID at the time made it much worse. And I'm not willing to let anything like that happen again. So yeah, right now I'm going to play it safe, but in the future, probably I'll fish with subscribers in the future. Yeah, just not at the moment. Joseph Kistner says, if someone was looking to start a channel, what are some tips, suggestions, and personal experiences? Most important thing if you're looking to start a YouTube channel is start your YouTube channel. One of the worst things you can do is think that you are going to come up with your aesthetic and your style and your filmmaking habits before you start. That's not the way to do it. You are going to change your channel as you go. You're going to learn from your experiences, and you're going to find a groove of filmmaking. You're going to find your own style as you go. The most important thing is to start now, as soon as possible, with anything you've got. The first maybe 100 videos on my channel were filmed on a cell phone. The most important thing is to get started, and you will find your groove as a filmmaker. Because YouTube fishing is, I would say it's 60-40, 60% about filmmaking, 40% about fishing. The filmmaking aspect is actually a little more important in my opinion. Find a couple of channels that you like, that you take inspiration from, kind of look at what they do and kind of get a feel for it. That's kind of the most important thing is I would say get a feel for how you like to edit things. Look at films, look at YouTube, look at TV programs, look at the editing, and try to get a feel for how to edit something, because editing is done by a feeling based on rhythm. Even world-class editors will tell you that. So get started with whatever you got, improve your camera gear and fishing gear as you go, not before you start, as you go. Look towards other inspirations and try to get a feel for editing. That's my advice. Oh, and sound. Sound is probably a little more important than camera quality. So maybe, if you're using your phone, for example, a lot of phones have amazing cameras these days. Try to see if you can get a microphone to mount on it. I would say it's more important to have good quality sound than perfect quality picture. So if I had to choose between decent sound and great picture, or decent picture and great sound, I would choose decent picture and great sound. What's your favorite or tastiest freshwater fish? Probably crappie. Favorite catch of all time? Alligator gar caught on the river where the hook broke and I had to jump in the water, and it was like basically only still attached by one line of braid running through its teeth, and I had to rope it in the water, and I was in the mud up to my waist. It's also the most viewed video on my channel. It's almost 4 million views now. That's probably my favorite catch. And that was from Satellite Fishing. What is the best and worst part of being a YouTube angler? This is from Bites and Strikes Fishing, who I'll shout out. Go subscribe to his channel. He was actually with me when I caught my biggest fish to date. Best part is working for yourself. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I do not like... I have a very, very solid professional background, and I consider myself to be a very professional person. I have very high professional standards. You know, when it comes to working like a professional, you show up, you do your job, you do it to the best of your ability. Everything worth doing is worth doing with effort and dignity behind it. Be a professional. I believe that very strongly. That being said, I hate doing what other people want me to do. I just can't stand waking up in the morning. I hate it. Waking up in the morning and knowing I am going to spend the rest of my day in service of what somebody else wants from me. That kills me. So the best part about being a YouTube fisherman is I work for myself now. And then the worst part of being a YouTube angler is just the uncertainty, the stress that comes with uncertainty. You know, it's not like I'm going to get a raise if I show a certain amount of performance improvements by the next quarter. It's not like I know what my paycheck's going to be every month. And there's another one. You don't get paid every 2 weeks. You get paid every month. So the uncertainty is the worst part. But at the same time, it also kind of drives you. It forces you to be creative. I probably would be very good at this if I had a guaranteed paycheck. Psychic Sight Toad says, number one, if you could be a werefish, what type of fish would you mix with? A great white shark. If you could go back to any ancient prehistoric time period and fish for extinct creatures, where and when would you go? What would you fish for? What kind of gear would you use? Assuming you had a large enough boat to protect you naturally. I would probably travel back to, I want to say it was I actually don't know what era these guys were in. I don't know if it's the Jurassic or the Cretaceous period, but plesiosaurus. I would love to see plesiosaurus. I don't think you could catch one of those. You'd probably break their neck. But I'd love to scuba dive with one. Would you swim in a pool full of kangaroo for $1 million? This is all Psychic Psych Toad's questions. Would you swim in a pool full of kangaroo for $1 million? No, because no. Do you believe in the existence of freshwater mermaids? Yes, they're called manatees when you've had too much rum. This is Jarrett Jenkins. I'm in the Houston area. Would you accept my invite to join me on my Palm Beach Day offshore rig? That's very kind, but because of my fear of getting incredibly sick again and spreading it to my family, probably not going to be fishing with, you know, a lot of people moving forward until things get better. So rain check on that one. But thank you. It was very nice. B. Nelson forever. I grew up saltwater fishing in Galveston, Texas City, Kemah, the Jetty, San Luis Pass, Seawolf Park. Ever since watching your videos, I've grown interested in freshwater fishing, creek fishing, bayou fishing, and exploring the smaller bodies of water near me. I live in Northeast Houston and would like to know if you have ever fished any areas around Humboldt or Kingwood, and if I have any spots in that area to recommend. I actually don't. I went to Kingwood once to fish and blanked. I didn't catch anything. That area, the Kingwood area, is this part of Houston I have the least experience fishing in. So sorry, but I actually don't know a whole lot of areas around there. Travis Woodyard says, why don't you do crappie fishing? Because I'm really bad at it. Seriously, I would love to do more crappie fishing, but I think it really benefits you to have a boat to find the spots that they tend to hide in. Bank fishing for crappie is pretty difficult, and I'm just not good at crappie fishing as it is. So yeah, I'm bad at it. I hope to get better at it because I think crappie fishing is probably the one panfish that a lot of people would still tune in to watch. You know, when I catch small bass or bluegill or things like that, I don't get a lot of views. I think I could still do that kind of fishing for crappie and get a lot of views. So I'll probably do some more of that if I can. Last question is from Carlos. Hey Peyton, Carlos here, loyal sub and loyal Patreon. I live in Houston and hope to one day bump into you. Anyways, my question is, what is the one fish you still haven't caught that you wish to catch? Mine is a roosterfish. Don't know why, but I want to catch one. Stay safe. Yeah, I think I got the same question on one of the other posts, Instagram or YouTube. I can't remember. But yes, right now I think the fish I would like to catch the most, that is a very possible catch, would be a big mirror carp. And then, of course, the dream catch, ultimately, eventually, would be an arapaima. That is just, in my opinion, the most beautiful fish that there is, with the red pattern at the edge of their scales as it runs down to their tail near their breeding season. It is just the most gorgeous looking animal I think you can imagine. The arapaima is really something to behold. So that is probably the dream fish. So who knows? Maybe eventually we'll take a trip and we'll get one. All right, guys, that was a lot of talking. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to look at our YouTube community page. I've got a contest on there for a new reel, a Shimano SLX extra high gear bait caster. Basically, whoever can predict Adesanya versus Whitaker 2 this Saturday in Houston the most accurately will win that reel. So you'll see the contest guidelines right there. Comment there to enter to win that reel. Check out the Patreon page if you want to help support us on Patreon. Yeah, more is coming. Stay tuned until it's here. I will see you guys later. Oh, he says bye.